Hello everyone, let's wait a few more minutes until everyone joins us and then we can start. Okay, we can start. Hello everyone, welcome to today's session. Let me just share the agenda and the materials for today. A moment, I'll do it right now. So, substance, this one. And the presentation about the loops, I sent you last time, so you already have it. And also if we have, that's most likely also for Friday as well. Not most likely, but it definitely will go for Friday as well because of practical assignment, which will be large one, and we will spend maybe more than one session. So now I will share it with you as well. So moment, no, not arrays, folks. Sorry, just my fault. So we finished with arrays last time. Yeah, of course, with loops. And okay, I will share the file with you. Yeah, because the topics about arrays and loops mostly are linked with each other, and that's why I just accidentally mixed them up. Yeah, but the practical assignment is called arrays, so you can see it. Okay, so now it's correct. I will share the agenda with you, and now we can start in a moment. This is updated version of the okay, so as I promised last time, today we are going to start with the topics which are not clear for you, for some of you. So we can repeat it, and already I received some questions from you, so we can go through. The first one is to go through the Git, go through Bitbucket. So we can quickly repeat all the steps. So first we will start with the project in Java or in Eclipse. So that's the first step. Yeah, first of all, also you need to set up. Please don't forget to set up all the views you need. For Git, we mostly need Git repositories and Git staging to see. So Git repositories are needed to see what are the repositories. We can switch between the repositories for different projects. And we can do it under Git repositories view, and under Git staging you can see all the files which are unstaged or which are staged and can be committed. Unfortunately, I have so you can add commit message and commit and then push the files. So first of all, let's create the project. I will name it test Git again, so just to show it again. About GAR, please remember to select the right version. For our case, it's fine if we use 14th version or 15th. But if you share your project with others and both sides change the content of this project and use Git, so in this case you need to have the same Java versions. So now let's create the project. We need to create module file. So right now we have project, and we have a project, and we can initialize a Git repository inside this project. This one. You see test git available under project folders, under workspace folders. So we have this test git folder now, and here I use git bash because it's easier to initialize git repository. So the first step is, again, we have the project, we created the project, we have the folder where our project is located, right? So that's the first step. Once it is done, next step is we can create our local git repository. And again, we have two options. We can do it from Eclipse, but I prefer using git bash because it's just simple command git init, which means that will initialize git repository inside this folder, and by just simply calling this command git init, I now have a git repository inside this folder. Alright, so maybe for now I can practically close git bash. Of course, you can do all the steps inside git bash using command line. Next steps are easier to be done in Eclipse, so I'll do that. So then I can add existing git repository. Since I just created it, now I can add it to the list of git repositories, right? So that's what I do here. I select the folder. When I select the folder, I can see that there's git file, which points us that this is git repository, and I simply add it, and I have local git repository here. So these are the steps how to set up, create, not set up, but how to create and initialize a local git repository and connect it to the project. So now we have the project with the files, and it is connected to git repository. So the next step is we need remote repository to push our files to. So for this purpose we can use Bitbucket. Again, we can use Bitbucket, we can use GitHub as well. GitHub. Also, GitHub I think is the most popular. It's hosting server, remote server. So if you want, you can also export GitHub and use it. I will use Bitbucket. So now I have my account in Bitbucket. So if you don't have, you need to create it, and then I can create the repository. Not input existing one. Sorry, simply type on the wrong one. If you type create, you need to create repository. Create repository, then select workspace, select project. If you don't have, you need to create them. And then again, I will use the name test-git. About the name of the repository, it doesn't matter what's the name of your repository. Inside Bitbucket, it's just for you to distinguish them inside. Because since this is remote repository, it will just have the name, and everything else will be imported from the local repositories. Here you have options to include README file or include gitignore. I will skip both steps because I want to have initial repository. So as you remember, if we have, that's the point some of you had the issues with. So the idea is, if you have the files in your remote repository and you start working with the local Git repository, you must pull or fetch and then merge the files from the remote repository to your local Git repository. That's because the repositories must be synchronized. Again, if we talk about Git, then I will also I will also open you the schema of the of how Git repositories work, and just to remind you about it for a moment. I will open this presentation again. So yeah, as you remember, so yeah, Git is distributed version control. So as you remember, we have remote repository, and we can have multiple local repositories. So then basically now we need to think about what's the way that we can proceed with this approach. First of all, please remember that we have unique one remote repository. So this is just one, and it cannot be mixed in some cases. So if we want to do the changes in this repository, it means that we must have the same just the same flow in local Git repositories. So in this case, it means that if we want to push something or we want to make any changes inside the remote repository, it means that we need to know what is inside this remote repository and to make our local repository synchronized with it. So it's not possible to just randomly push any file to a remote repository and proceed with it. So just imagine if all the users from local Git repositories push just random unsynchronized files to the remote repository. It's not possible. It's actually just imagine random files are pushed from this repository, random files are pushed from this repository, and random files are pushed from this repository. So at the end, you'll have the mess inside the remote server. If there are some files also deleted or changed, then it is actually not possible to distribute such version control. So in this case, you can push only the synchronized changes. That's why if you have any files inside your remote repository, you must firstly pull them. In this case, if I don't import any files, I just create empty repository without any. I already have this repository. Yeah. Okay. So now I just have empty Git repository, and now here I have the link. So now I can connect this repository with my local Git repository. So I do this connection, and I connect the local Git repository with the remote Git repository. So on Eclipse I can do it by pressing on remotes. I create remote, I configure it as push, and yeah, pressing change. Here I type URL. You need to pass username and password, and after that you can press finish, save, and so now you connected your local Git repository with remote Git repository, and now we can work with the files here. So as we can see right here, not right here, but here I have some files. So these are the files I can push to the remote repository. And so I commit the changes and I push them to the remote repository. So that's the initial setup. Everything seems to be fine here, right? So yeah, that was about initial setup and initial commit and push. I think that was quite easy, but yeah, the most sometimes some of you had the problems with pulling the changes. So for this purpose, let's imagine that now we have our remote repository with some files. Yeah, it is still here. We don't. Yeah, and one more thing, as you can see, the folder's src is not here. That's because we don't have any files inside source folder. That's why it did not push the changes to the folder to this repository. If we create just one file here, at least one file. So, an empty class. Just without any specific logic inside. So now this class can be staged. So I stage and I can directly press on command and push. This will do both things together. So and now if I refresh remote repository, I have this source folder here and the class is also here. So that's about just pushing. I hope that with the pushing there is no problem, at least for empty project. If you don't interfere this project with any other different projects. Yeah, right now let's check how what can be the issues with pull. So first of all, yeah, right now I can delete this project. Right from here, I can delete this project, and I will also delete this test git repository. So right now I don't. Let me delete this folder as well. So right now I don't have this project in my Eclipse, but the project is still available inside Bitbucket. So the project is still available here. I can use it. So right now I will create initial project and pull all the changes from this remote repository. And yeah, also one more thing, so maybe some of you haven't noticed that under this repository, so we don't have any, let's call it like header folder. We just have, so the repository is just the folder where all the files are located, and there's no like the project folder at the top. At the top, basically there's no top. All the files from the project are directly located under this repository. So there's no folder at the top. Just one way up. So this is the basement of the project. So directly with all the files and source folder. Okay, so now we can create a new basically there are several ways how we can do it. Maybe just the easiest way would be if we create this folder again here, and then we press on git bash, and then we can clone git repository here. And you can see the command, it's already provided here. Yeah, please note that Ctrl-C, Ctrl-V does not work here, so you need to paste it manually. And so yeah, it cloned you. Sorry, that was, and that's comment. Yeah, you can see that. So we just cloned the repository. It is here. Yeah, maybe that was not correct. I need to just to do it again, but as just maybe not overcomplicated, let's just simply directly create it here, yeah, because as you can see, when we clone the project, new folder is created. So then I will simply do it from the workspace. Yeah. So if I do it from the workspace, I have the folder at the top. And now this is the project folder. We can rename it as we want. I'll rename it, and then I have just a simple project folder. And then I can close it. And so to add this project to Java, you need to create to Eclipse. You need to create a new Java project. So then you can add this project name, and I will open the location. So I opened the location. I will not create any folder, and you can see that I actually already have this Git repository here, but yeah, I also have remote added automatically. So if you just simply clone directory, then you already have all the setups here. One more option is if you don't do the cloning. If you don't do the cloning, you actually create new repository. That's also an option. Then I will delete it. So if you just do the cloning, you need to simply clone the remote repository, and then create new project inside this repository. This will be available in workspace. So another option is if you have your project, then I will create a new project. Again, name it test kit. So now I don't have local Git repository yet, so I just have empty project. So I can create my own Git repository. Then I will use git bash, and as you remember, I do the same command. I need to initialize Git repository. So I do it. I just initialized, and I can add it the same way. I can add it to Git repositories list. Again, remotes are not available here because we have not connected our local repository with the remote repository. Yeah, previously we cloned. As you remember, we did git clone, and here we already provided the URL, so it automatically connects. It automatically creates the same remote repository, or the same repository as it is here, with all the files from here, and it automatically connects with the remote repository under this link. But so if we don't do the cloning, then we need to add this remote repository automatically. Here I can use configure fetch. Yes, I will fetch the changes. So then I pass this link, and now I have the remotes here. So, and first of all, we have the branches, and we can have two options. We can have local branch and remote branch. Remote tracking, these are the branches which come from the remote repository. So the first step is we need to pull the changes or fetch the changes. We can start with fetch. this yeah, we'll fetch this will be the base, and so I fetched from this origin, so from this remote branch, and now we can see that remote branch appeared here. So remote branch is here, and we can see the message from our last commit. But again, as you can see here, the changes is not the files are not here yet. Yeah? But we have this remote tracking branch, so it means that we just fetched the changes from our remote repository, but the changes are not available. The changes are not inside our local repository yet. But the remote branch is available. So yeah, now we fetched the changes, and we can merge the changes. So I select this remote branch, I press merge, yeah, and here I have uncommented changes. These are the changes from my local project, so I can commit them. Unfortunately, for some reasons, the changes were not staged. A moment, I will merge again. Okay, I will stash and I will stash them. Moment, for some reasons it is not showing it actually for right now. As you remember, when I initialize local Git repository, it should be linked to this project. So when I create it, but right now for some reasons it does not show that it is linked. One moment, maybe let me pause the 8% open it again. One moment. So since I initialized Git repository, now it should be synchronized with the project. One moment, I will restart Eclipse. And you can also see that there is no local branch, which should normally be when we start working with. Okay, right now, yeah, I just restarted Eclipse and it works. So in some cases, and yeah, all the files can be staged. Yeah, in some cases, Eclipse is lagging a little bit. So right now you can see that we are linked with Git repository, and if we have this text in yellow on the right side, it actually shows us Git repository to which we are connected. So yeah, right now I can see the files here. Yeah, previously it was, again, for some reason sometimes Eclipse is lagging. That's why you can restart Eclipse, and then normally you should see the right content available here. Okay, so then I will commit from a new project. So if you don't commit, that won't be that you should commit the changes, because then you if you don't commit the changes, then you cannot merge changes. So once you committed, you don't need to push them. Yeah, at the moment you don't need to push them, because there may be the conflicts, and the conflicts may be solved once you merge the changes. And the merge actually happens inside the branches, and once you committed the changes will be under your local branch. Yeah. So, and when we merge the changes, we actually merge these two branches. So I will merge the changes. I have both commits here. I see that I don't have any conflicts, and I shouldn't have them, and I see all the changes now are available here. Yeah. So right now we have new commit. So it means that we haven't finalized our synchronization with the remote repository, because we just had the commit here under local branch. And so as you can see here, yeah, if you have different commits here, it means that some changes were not pushed yet, have not been pushed yet. So if I push the changes, before I push, so remote tracking and local branch. Under remote tracking, you will see the last changes, which the last commit which is pushed or is pulled or fetched. Yeah. So this is the one. If you push the changes, so if I push the changes now, I'll push them from the local repository. So then I'm pushing the changes. And so now I can push the changes. So everything is successfully done, and we can see that under remote tracking we have this the last commit we did in our local repository. So under remote tracking, you will see if it's the last push or the last fetch or pull. So that's how we do. First of all, again, before you do the fetch, you should not have any unstaged files, unstaged or staged files which are not committed yet. So when you do the pull or fetch, you must commit all your files, and after that you can do the fetch, and you can merge the changes, because you merged before you commit your changes. Your changes are not tracked under local branch, under this branch, and once you commit the changes, your changes will be under local branch. And when you fetch the changes from remote tracking, and then you merge the changes, when you fetch the changes, you have them under this remote tracking branch. And so in the merge can happen only under the local branch. So merge these changes with the local changes, and that's why you must commit all your changes, and then you can pull them. That's how it works. There are also some different things to talk about, but these are just the must-have steps. But in this course, you just need to know how to push the changes, and you can simply, again, as I said, for the home tasks, again, you have one remote repository which you can share with me, and then in this remote repository you have the project which is located on your computer, on your workspace. And so this project has the local Git repository, which is connected to your remote repository. So you just need to do the work here, commit, push, and that's basically it. At the moment, what you should have to do. All the pulls at the moment, if you can do it, and if you do it, it's really nice. It's really good, but it's not mandatory at the moment. About the code I'm sharing with you, it's in my remote repository, this one. So again, some of you comment every time. Again, you can do the fetch. You can do the fetch. You can commit your changes, but you cannot push the changes because you have read access only. So, but with your local Git repository, you can do whatever you want. You just cannot change what is under remote tracking. With your local repository, you can do whatever you want. So all the changes must be committed, and you can merge the files from my remote branch. But just simply to see the logic, you can open it in Bitbucket, and you can just go through all the code which is located here and do the simple copy paste. So it's at the moment, if you have some issues with fetching or pulling, that's fine. Again, for this course, it's just exporting Git. Yeah. So since we just started coding with you, it's not actually mandatory to make Git work, make Git great again, to be able to work with Git as professionals. At the moment, again, if you can pull the changes, that should be enough. It's not mandatory required. Yeah. But so I hope, this was the question from Maya. I hope it is more clear now. If you have any more questions, then please let me know about Git, about remote repositories. So if okay, so it's nice, and so now we can see Dart is typing something. Okay, let's see what Dart is typing, and if there are questions about this topic, if something is missed, please let me know. I also from the last lecture, one moment, I will share from the last lecture. One moment. That was on Monday. Okay, this is the link from last lecture. And basically all the sessions are available on the same channel, so you can search for it. Okay, we have two more questions already sent to me, so we can discuss them. The question about how to use Boolean in programs when it is necessary. That's a good question, and so if we just first of all, we already know that. So maybe I will delete this. First of all, I will delete this project because I don't need it anymore. Okay, I can do it because I'm Git repository, so let me delete this Git repository. So I don't need it anymore. Okay, let's delete it. Okay, so I don't have this project anymore. So about Boolean, first of all, Booleans as separate variables are used maybe a little bit differently than the Booleans are used for cycles, for example. Yeah, as you remember, just maybe if we go a little bit in theory, inside the theory, then remember that booleans are used, for example, inside the cycles, like in this case. Because as you remember, if we compare two variables, this returns as true or false. Yeah, actually this operation checks if I is less than 5, for example. Not for example, but this case is an example. It checks if I is less than 5, so it returns true or false, which is also Boolean. So in this case it is used in the way that actually in this case again we can simply do any checks which returns as any true or false result. Again, if we check it this way, this returns as true or false. Yeah, again it checks if I is less than 5. The same way it also returns as true or false, also returns as true or false. Yeah, if we check if two variables are the same. If two variables are not the same, this also returns as true or false. So every such comparison returns as true or false, which is also the Boolean. So we can just simply type true. So this means that this will be endless cycle because this will always be true. Yeah, and if we type false, that it actually results in error because this will always as you can see, if we type it as false, what it actually means. You can already see that. You can see that this is the error because Java compiler understands that this is dead code. Dead code means that the code will not be executed. Yeah, and that's because false means that we will never go inside this loop. So this is the example of. So in this case, we also use true or false, and this is also Boolean. I type it here. This is about the cycles, also where we use inside the branching. So the branching, if we have if statement. If statement also checks if it's true or false. So inside if we have Boolean value, Boolean variable, it can be true, it can be false. So in this case, it checks if sunny day is true or false. Yeah. The same way, this is equivalent approach, because actually in this case sunny day equals true. This returns as true or false. So in case sunny day is true, then it it is true. Then all this comparison will be true. If we check if sunny day is false, then it actually checks if sunny day is false. So if sunny day is true, then sunny day is not false, then it means that all this comparison results in false. But at the end, again, we can do with as much comparisons as we want, but at the end we have this Boolean value. Its value true or false. So this is if we have the conditions, we check the conditions, we check then inside these checks we have this Boolean value, which can be true or false. Yeah, we cannot use the number. We still cannot use number. We cannot use the text. Yeah, we can only use true or false, and that's about all the comparison operators. There are so many such cases where the statements are checked. If we will talk about while loop, yeah, and this also uses true or false. Yeah. So while true, then we go inside the cycle. Then what else? So we'll talk about this operator a little bit later. So assert operator also uses true or false. Yeah. So the assert is kind of check. Yeah, we'll talk about it a little bit later. But this is operator which does the check on some conditions, and these conditions will also can also be true or false only. So that's about assert. Also instance of also also returns true or false. So all the comparisons, basically where any comparison is used, then there we use there is Boolean value which is actually true or false. Yeah, this is about the comparison, and so this is one usage. Another usage is first of all about the comparison. Another usage is to make it as not as a pointer but as the mark. Yeah. So but imagine. So we'll talk about XML a little bit later, but so let me open at least one meaningful XML file. Yeah, so if we talk about the data, maybe some of you know what XML files mean. Maybe some of you not. Don't worry. It's just again, imagine you have just the data. Yeah, it's the data. It can be stored in XML, in database, in JSON, whatever you want. So just imagine you have the database. Yeah, the data. Or database, the data. Yeah, there can be the people, employees, for example, whatever it can be, and you have such. You have some values for each entry in this data, and you actually have and you may have such data which can be true or false. Yeah, it can be whatever it. Just imagine any case in real life which can be true or false. Yeah. Simply, like again, the simple case, if you have the list of employees who work every day, and you just check this list and see who works today. Yeah. If the person works, so it's true. If the person does not work, it's false. Then, based on this information, at the end of the month, the salary will be calculated. Yeah, as an example. So the Boolean value can also be used in the data. Again, any data, whatever it can be, just every data which marks points that some information is true or false, or it's actually if it's presents or not. Yeah, some technology used, for example. If it's used, yes, it is used, then it's true. Yeah. And true or false may be considered as yes, no as well. Yeah. In some cases we use Boolean as yes, no. And if we work with the data, it can be again stored and moved in different ways. Then this Boolean value can be used as yes, no, for example. File date and branching. Okay, question from Elsa. File date and branching date. This is also used. And this is another example inside the code. So imagine that that we have the flow of the code again, right? So we have the actions which are done inside the code, and we can have the marker, the pointer that some information is true or false. Not true or false, but if the case is reached, which will be used after that. I understand your concern about this particular case, because this is one of the not tricks, but one of the best ways where the Boolean value can be used. So basically, again, imagine we have the flow of the program, as I already said, where we have multiple actions. So we have the actions, we do one thing, we do another thing, and at the end, so as in this case, at the end, we use this marker to check if some information is achieved, some target is achieved or not. Like in this case, we have multiple places or multiple cases where we can understand that the day is incorrect. So it can be under case 1, it can be under case 2, it can also be under case 3, and so on. So we have multiple places where the date can be incorrect. And just to not write this logic inside every place right here, we can simply create this, I don't want to call it pointer, but the marker, the flag, the flag. We can call the flag. We can create this flag which points us that the day is incorrect. So in this case, again, I have multiple places where I can find that the day is incorrect. So, and at least in one of these places, this day is incorrect. I point the program that the actual date is incorrect, and at the end I use it. So if one of these cases occurred, then I see that this one is false, and at the end it checks if this is false. So remember that if case will be executed when it is true. So if correct is false, then not false is true. So if correct is occurred, if correct is secured, and if it is true, if it is occurred and it is true, then this code will be executed. So this is the flag. This is the flag which can be set in multiple places. It again, just maybe if we imagine real life, so we have maybe if you are in the office, and you want to if you want to maybe order the especially in COVID cases, right, in our pandemic right now, we don't usually go to lunch together. So now in the offices, people usually order from Bolt, or whatever it can be. So, and the idea is that so there are multiple people inside the office, and to order from the cafeteria, from the restaurant, you need to find 5 people who want to order from this exact place. For example, 5 people, and then you go to each colleague, to each employee, and ask if he or she wants to join you order from the exact place. And so actually the program will be, you go through all the employees, and once you find 5 people, then you set you can set the flag to true. So the flag means that you will order from this place. If flag is true, then you will order from this exact place. If flag is false, you will not order from this place. And the same is here. We have multiple cases when we can check. And I was asked, but there is not correct. So it's not maybe about the same way we can write it. Maybe I agree that maybe the syntax is not correct. Not correct, not so clear. If we type it this way, it is the same as if we type it this way. So sorry. So yeah, maybe. Yeah, I agree that at the beginning this may be a little bit unclear, but if we tap it this way, I think this becomes clear for you. And if correct is false, then that's because not correct, not false means true. Yeah. False means it is the same as true. Yeah. Not false means true, and false equals false results, and it results in true. So if you check, maybe I will. It's true. Yeah. Not false is true, and false equals false is true. Maybe I will do that this way. I hope you understand. Yeah. So false equals false, that's true, because false equals false. So again, it compares left side, and it compares left side with the right side. Again, the right side is the same as the left side, so it results in true. So in this case, if correct is false, then false equals false, which is true, and we go inside. And the same is not correct, which means that not false, the opposite of false, which is true. And so that's why we can type it both ways. Okay, so I hope it's more clear now about the booleans. Yeah, we'll definitely have much more examples in our course. Don't worry, we'll use boolean values in different ways. Yeah, it's maybe not as we use strings. Yeah, we'll have so much multiple values. From boolean, we just have true or false. But in the logic, in the algorithms, as you remember, yeah, we have branches. We have different branches, and to determine at which branch you want to go, we usually use true or false, so yes or no. Alright, so now it's time for the break, and after the break there will be another question already prepared, so we will continue after the break. Okay, let's move on. So so there's the question about creating calculator using switch control. So yeah, let's check how it was created. So that was using else if about switch. I don't remember which file that was, but in a moment, which file was it? I don't. To be honest, I don't remember which file was it. Let me check. Okay, I think we didn't have okay, yeah. Okay, so yeah, just how to create it using, we can create now it using the switch statement as well. Okay, maybe let me copy this code. This code, and then I will modify it so we can okay, this one just clearly copy it. Okay, so now we can modify it and use it using switch statement. So in theory we can translate our switch syntax, if else syntax to switch syntax. So first of all, in switch we have the key, and in this case, of course, the key will be operator. The key will be operator. So let's finish. So we have the start of our switch and the end of our switch. So first of all, we have again the key, then we can use this key. So the first case is multiplication. It's multiplication, and we have the first option. Then we have the key, and of course break. Don't forget about break. same as division. And the same as plus. Same as minus. And then default, of course. And then don't forget about the breaks. The end. So this is how can we translate it using the translate how we can create it using the switch. Using the switch. And let's check so we can forward the yeah. So now to multiply 4 by 5 and we'll have 20 and there's that. So yeah, it basically works this way. So the idea is that instead of multiple ifs, yeah, we have one key. The key is operator. Because we have different actions based on the key, based on the operator. As for different operator, we have different action. Yeah. So and so first we have key, and instead of these multiple ifs, we just have different cases. And if operator is multiplication, then we multiply. If it's division, we divide. If it's plus, then we sum, and so on. Yeah. So that's basically how can we translate it. And instead of else, we can use default. Yeah. So this is how can we do it. So we need to understand the concept of switch, because again we have key, and the key can be mapped to one of the cases. So this is how it works. Okay, yeah, is it clear now? To explain more. Also typing, so we can check. Okay, the question from Olga: why double result? Double result equals not just double result. Not sure what does it mean. Why double result 0, not just double result? I'm not sure what do you mean by this question, Olga. I'm sorry. First yeah, that's because we have this variable used in different cases. That's why we declare it at the beginning. But yeah, in theory the problem is that because of default, under default we don't assign a new variable to it. Yeah, if we put, I think the best option is to put return here, and then we won't have this issue. But yeah, also we need to close this scanner just to not have any warning. So yeah, that's because that's a good question, Olga. That's because we had one case. We have default case where we don't assign any value to result. Where we don't assign any value to result. Yeah. and that's why we had to use initial value. That's why we had to use initial value, and the initial value is can be 0. But again, in this case, I think that was maybe my issue a little bit, just to make it more clear. If the operator is incorrect, we cannot have any result. And in this case, this approach would be better. I agree. But previously I used it because we had this default this default case. One moment. It's not crucial. Crucial message. I'm sorry. That's because we didn't have in case we have this default result, in case we have it, it means that we don't assign any value to the result. And in this case, I will just simply finish the program, and I will not go here. So since here is the place where result is used, and if result is not initialized, then we cannot use it after that. But since under default I don't use it and I finish the program, it's fine. I don't need to initialize it, because if I go under default, I will not use it after that, because I finished the program here. That's fine. Okay, and the question from us: does it make a difference if I use int instead of double for the values? If you just use only integer values, then you can use int. Then you can just simply use integer. If you since this is calculator, you can use double values as well, and that's why it's maybe a little bit better to use double values. But in general, if you don't need to use any, if you don't want to use double values, then you can simply stay with integer, and that should be fine as well. One thing here is because I used double, because math power returns double. It returns double by default, and that's why maybe just to not overcomplicate with the casting, you can simply use double and deal with doubles. And that's why I used double floor. But again, it's up to you. Based on what numbers are you working with, you can choose your type. Okay, this is about calculator with switch. If it's still unclear, then you can ask the questions about it. If not, then we can move on with our first topic for today. And I would like to before we continue with the loops, we can start with debugging, because this is the tool which may be really useful for you when we create more complicated programs. And at the moment, actually, we can follow all the steps done inside our program, because we don't have so much logic inside. But so when we will create more difficult, more complicated, more advanced programs, then we will need to. It will not be actually 100% possible to follow all the steps done inside your program. And like in this case, we have a cycle with 5 iterations. Then we know that after each iteration we assign here a new variable to the array. Yeah, but how can we check it using the just directly? Yeah? So if we run the program and we want to follow all the steps done by this program, so to do it we can use debugger. And how can we start debugging? The debugger will be opened at the breakpoint, which is set inside the code. So we set the breakpoint, and we set the breakpoint. It means that this is the place where the debugger will stop. So now we can use the option debug as. We select this option, and okay, I will not switch, but I need one more view to see it. And I will open one view. Open debug view. Okay, it's already here. But there was one more. There's one more view. Yeah, variables. I think that was the right one. Yeah. Okay, so right now we run our program, and we ran our program and we stopped at this place on the 7th line. So right now we can go through all the program step by step, see what the program actually does, what are the changes which happen inside this program, and we can also see what are the values of the variables changed under this variables screen. So to move on with the program, you have several options. Step into means step inside. Yeah, maybe at the moment we will rarely use it. Most we will use step over. Step over means we just simply go to the next action. So in this case, the next action will be this for loop. So we press step over, and then we are on the next step. And as you can see, new variable values appeared. And if we press on it, we can see that this is the array with the values. This initial array with integers, but there are no any values but 0. So, and now with the same way we can go through our cycle. We press step over, we go to the next line 12, and it assigns the first value to the array, and we can see it has changed here. It is 1. Then next operation, I is 1. So I plus 1 is 2, and this 2 will be assigned to the second element of the array. So in the same way we can go through all the program and see that our array is changed. So step by step we move through all the steps, and we can follow how our program works. Breakpoint. Yeah, the breakpoint can be created if you just simply select the line on which you want to create the breakpoint, and right click and press right click and press toggle breakpoint. that's how can you create the breakpoint. Also, you can disable breakpoint. Same way, if you if you press toggle breakpoint on the breakpoint, then this will remove the breakpoint. Yeah, and in case you have another breakpoint in the code, like here for example, and you press resume, this will move to the next. This will move to the next breakpoint. So using resume statement, you will move to the next breakpoint. Right? This is how to do it. And you can disable breakpoint if you want. Again, just simply delete it. You can you can disable. It means that it will remain, but it will not be active. Then you can enable this. This will activate the breakpoint. Yeah, so this is about statement F8. It will go until next breakpoint. Yeah, if you use step over F6, this will move to the next next active statement. Yeah, if you type step into this, will again, as you can see here, we call the method printline, so it will go inside this printline statement. The printline statement, printline method. So now we're in the method printline, and we can see the logic. We can see the logic here. So now it will just repeat the same action 100 times. So we will not go through all these steps, and right now we just simply finished our actions, and the debugger is closed. So this is the short introduction in debugging. We will use it a little bit later, when we have more complicated logic, but I hope now you understand why will we need the debugging? Why the debugger is needed? Is it clear for you? I mean, the reason why we use it. So just how we will use it, you will understand how this can be used. But the purpose of debugging, I hope, is clear for you. So is it clear, or why do we need debugging? Maybe again about some features and some maybe more detailed steps we will use it. Once we have some issues, then we can just basically go through all the code. We'll see all the actions executed in the code, and just see the place where the issue is. All right, so that's about the debugger. We will use it again, but a little bit later. So for now, let's move on with the loops. So this one. So last time there was the question how many times this loop will be performed, and you can see, as you remember, the answer is 3. We start from 7, then we go to 8, then we go to 9, and when we have 10, this is not less than 10 is not less than 10, and the loop will be stopped after that. So that's why it is 3. Yeah, so the same question about this loop, and as you can already see, it will be performed 3 times, and so from the previous session, I hope that you can understand that the reason is so we start with -10. We check if I is greater than -13. So it means that all the values from -10 until -12 are allowed. So it's -10. That's first iteration, -11 second iteration, and -12 third iteration. So since we decrement I, this will go just basically on the opposite, on the negative direction. So, and yeah, as you can see, it is possible to create different loops with the same amount of iteration. Yeah. So you can simply mix, not mix, but use different options, and you will have the same amount of iterations. But actually, such complicated loops, like if I start from 1000 and we increment it until 1004. So on practice, these loops are rarely used, and we usually just start with 0 and then do as many iterations as we want. Also, yeah, just 2 possible cases: if we go from 0 or from any value to exact value. This is also possible, but not just a constant value. We'll see. When we have double loops, it is possible that the iteration will start at the exact point. But usually in must use case we start from 0. But it is also possible when we use different starters, what we call as starters. Yeah, we'll see. But again, the idea is that we can have multiple options. And what is also really important is the value of the variable. Yeah. So here we have the variable I, and inside the loop, inside this cycle, I will be the value of I will be available. Yeah, as you remember, just right here inside the cycle, we can use the variable I. We can use variable I. And it is really important, because in lots of programming cases, every variable which is used as the base of the cycle, it can be used, and in most cases it is used inside the cycles. Okay. So just again, if we go from, like in this case, from 0 to 4, then we should know the value of I to just fill the array from 1 to 5. So basically, yeah, it means that the variable I can be used inside the cycle, and that's why in some cases we may have a different starter, and of course different finisher as well. Why not? Yeah. So the question is about this loop. How many times this loop will be performed? It's also a really interesting question. Yeah. Just to understand the concept of the loops. Yeah. So we have 3 positions, remember, and remember what each position is responsible for. Can you guess, or do you know how many times this loop will be performed? Yes, that's correct. Yeah, that's correct. This is endless loop. Infinity. This is endless loop, and endless loop are also not quite popular, but endless loop in some cases this is the reason of the issue why some programs are crashing, and that's also a really popular issue of the already popular reasons of the crashing of the programs. But yeah, that's it is possible. And where can we basically use these endless loops? In which cases endless loops are not needed but can be used? Inside the debugging, we can use endless loops just because. So if you want to debug something, we go through the code, and we actually never stop, but debugging can be stopped. And just for debugging purposes, in some cases endless loops can be used, but just only for debugging. Yeah, because if you go through the code, yeah, you have endless loop, then you can stop at this endless loop and repeat all the steps under this endless loop. Yeah. So that's how it can be done. But again, rarely used. But in some cases, using debugging, you can stop endless loop and navigate. So it is possible, to have the loop which will repeat actions for infinity, but again, in most cases this will crash your program. Not crash, but just overflow, and in the end you will have the overflow of the memory. So yeah, be very careful and try to escape them. Yeah, because the idea is to have iteration, so negative value will always be less than 0, and if you decrement negative value, this will go to minus infinity, and of course it will always be less than 0. And yeah, as I said, you can, so just infinity loop is 4, and you'll just keep all three positions, and just leave them empty, and then you'll have endless loop. So then we can have this case, and also the question from you: how many times this loop will be performed? Yeah, never. Yeah, it will never be performed because if we decrement I, this statement will always be false. Because remember, to go inside the loop, the statement must be true. If the statement is false, then we don't go inside the loop. So that means please be careful with the definitions of for loops. So in some cases you may go to infinity, and also in some cases you may never go inside the loop as an option. Okay, so basically how can we use the loops? As we remember last time, we can print the arrays using the loops. Of course, we can print the arrays manually by simply typing all these commands, but again, it's not efficient because we just have only one character, one place inside the code which is changed, and using the loop, using the variable I, we can print each element of the array. And this is what we already did last time. So here we simply print each element. Means that system out print line will be executed for the first element, for the second element, for the third element, and so on until the last element. Yeah. So this is basically, since we have only one changing parameter, we can change this parameter can be changed at each iteration, simply using the loop. And this is basically, as I said, this is the case where we can use I variable from the definition of the loop. It is needed to get the corresponding element. Without this I variable, we cannot really achieve it. And if you want to print, you need to repeat this action 5 times, like in this case, and then all the elements will be printed out. And also, as you can see, if we have, we can also, instead of constant number, we can use, as we already used this variable length. So in this case, this will be 100. Maybe for arrays, it is, if we don't, in this case we know how many elements there are inside the array, but in general case, you may not know how many elements there are inside the array, and you can use this variable instead, right? So this is how it can be done. Also you can, if you want, you can print each second element. And if you want to print each second element, as I mentioned last time, you can increment. So in this case, you increment I by 2. If you use plus 2, this will increment I element by 2, not by 1. So in this case, you will print each second element. I hope it's clear. If you start with 0, then you print the first element. Then you go to the next iteration. You add not 1 but 2. So it means that I will be 3. No, not 3, 2. I will be 2. So it means that you skip the second element indexed as 1, and you go to the third element, which is indexed as 2. So you skip the second one, and you go to the third one. And this is basically what will happen for each element. Inside this array, you will just skip every second element. Alright, so that's again, as I said, you can increment it as you want. You can print each second element, simply incrementing I not by 1 but by 2. And also you can go on the opposite direction. This is also really approach which sometimes is used when you want to go from the end to the beginning. Also possible, why not? And in this case, I can tap greater than -1 or greater equals to 0. But this is the same for integer numbers. And of course we need to decrement So in this case, we start with the last number of the array and we go to the first number of the array. So this is also possible, just go in opposite direction. Start with the last element and go to the first. Alright, so that's how it works. Yeah, we can choose direction as we want. There are several options to configure. So this is all about for loops. Yeah, we will use them a lot in our course. So this this type of loop will be the most popular in our course. Yeah. Okay, for now let's have the break, and after the break we will switch to different types of loops. Okay, let's continue with the loops, and next type of loop is for each. This is for those of you who work if you work with PHP, for each is the main cycle there. So this I'm not really familiar with the history of for each, but I assume that it maybe come from PHP programming language, but I'm not sure what was the origin of for each type of loop, but it is actively used in PHP. But yeah, basically what it is, it actually, if in for loop we declare the variable, in the iterator, we use this iterator, we check we check the statement, we increment, decrement the iterator during the loop. Then for each, the main concept is that we go through all the elements of the array. So this is and this is the syntax. For each actually looks very similar to a simple for statement, but the parameters we pass to this for each statement is the parameters are a little bit different. So basically, as you remember, for simple for we have the iterator declared in the first position, and the second position we check the condition, if it's true or false. Usually it's less than something or greater than something, and at the third position we increment or decrement. So for here the syntax is different. At the first position we have type of the element. Yeah. Then we declare the variable, and the variable, then we have a column, and then we have the array. So at this point, this for will go through all the elements inside from this array. So in this case, let's also create the class and check how does it work. So first of all, let's declare the array. Let's type some values here. So then we want to go through all these values. So what can we do? Again, we use for, but in this case we have again different syntax. So at first position we have the type of, we still have the type of the variable. It's integer, yeah, we know. And in the next position we declare the variable, so we need to declare the variable. We use value, and instead of equals we use colon, and I will type array. So in this case, and we can, for example, we can print all the elements from the array. So in this case, value, this is the variable, and so it's the same way it prints out all the elements. So in this case we have shorter syntax, but again the functionality of this approach is not as large as for simple for loop, yeah. Because here we can go only at each element of the array, and we cannot and implement some more tricky operations like this. With I, here we can print each second element, for example, or we can go an opposite way. Right here we just simply go through all the elements, and the values of the elements will be located, of each element will be located under value, and this is specifically created for the arrays. Yeah? So loops can be used for any purpose we want, but for each can be used for arrays only, to fetch the values of the array and yeah, use them as the variables, like in this case. But yeah, we cannot change these variables. No, we can change these variables, but it doesn't make sense because we just want to read the values from the array. Alright. So, actions can be more, the same as in simple. For example, you can increment the value by 2, and then it will print you just every value increased by 2. Yeah, we can have more than one action inside as well. In this case, the cycle remains the same, but the functionality also is quite similar, but a little bit different approach. Okay, so let's move on. So this is a short overview. Yeah, this is again variable and the array on the right side. In for loop, it's possible to not check every element in array, but in for each loop, every element will be checked. So we cannot skip the element, any element. But the result will be the same. Okay, there's nothing really much more to talk about for each. Again, idea is just to simply go through all the elements in the array. Then we have while statement. This is used more often than for each, in general, in average. But it has quite different concept than simple for has. So as you remember, if for and for each loops are defined for known amount of the iteration, so we know how many iterations there are, if it's the length of the array, or any other case, we just simply hardcode number of iterations. Like in this case, if it's 100 iterations, so it means that this will. Like in this case, 100 iterations, and we start from 0 and increment by 1. It means that we'll definitely have hundreds of iterations. 100 iterations and no less, no more. But for while, the concept is different. Basically, as an example, you may have the alarm, and some steps must be repeated. So we have the alarm, and we have the alarm. So if so alarm is ringing. So we have start. We start at 7 o'clock. Alarm is ringing. Are you ready to wake up? No. Then we repeat the same action again and again and again. So in this case, we actually by default we don't know how many times this cycle will be repeated. We don't know. But yeah, we have the condition. We have the condition, and again, as you remember, if we have the condition, it is Boolean. Yeah, it's Boolean, and it can be true or false. For while, yeah, in this case, it's maybe described in the opposite way, because actually while happens when the statement inside is true. So we have while true, the statement, the action, the loop will be executed. Yeah. While, and inside we have true or false. Yeah. While true, this remains the same. Yeah, we continue our action. And yeah, we can have endless loop while true. So okay, maybe let's create a separate file again. So yeah, for example, we can start with the Boolean value. Let's start from. So we have Boolean value, which will be the flag, and yeah, for example, again, let's do the same action. Let's declare the array as we previously did. And again, as previously we used for now we can use it this way. So I will declare integer value, and I can name I will just name int val, for example, and I will start with 0. So then we can check it this way: while flag equals true, or while flag. We can do it this way, for example. Why not? Then we can fill the values of I to 0, to 0 to array. And so is the issue. Int val, sorry. Yeah, I just changed different name of label. So yeah, now I will fill the array. Yeah. And here I will increment the array. Also, I can check, for example, if int val equals 5. Then I will change the flag to false. And then I can print all the elements the same way. But in this case, no, maybe let's start with just simply. Maybe yeah, let's print the elements as we previously did. Just maybe to first of all, let's keep with this. Let's stay with this loop, and then we will see how it actually works. Okay, we have the array. We can print again all the elements from the array. Yeah, so now we can see that in this loop we filled all the elements. But actually, yeah, what happens here? First of all, we have the condition. If condition is true, since we know that flag is true, we can so it's true, we go inside. So here same way, I start with 0. So int val 0 equals int val. So it's still 0. So operation is done. This will be incremented by 1. So then I check if int val reached 5. If it doesn't reach 5, then it still remains false or remains true. Otherwise, if it's 5, then it's true. Then the flag is true, and then the flag is false. Sorry, and the flag is false, and then on the next iteration flag will be false. And yeah, I will add the comments. So thank you. So go inside if flag is true, then sign value to the int val indexed element of the array. After the value is assigned, we increment send increment int val. So in this case, I hope it's clear. If int val is 5, then we change the flag. That's 5. Change flag. And while will not be executed at the next iteration. Alright, so that's the idea. Again, maybe the concept is a little bit different, and the actions we can perform are a little bit different, but idea is, I hope it's clear. We go inside while loop if the statement, again in the brackets, is true. If the statement inside the brackets is true, then we will go inside this while. Then we just have some actions here, and we repeat. We go back to while, and again we still check this condition. Right. So the same way as here, I will comment it out. I will not need flag anymore. I will use the same approach, and I will do the same action. The same action will be, so I will check if int val is less than 5. While int val is less than 5, and then we simply, again, same way we assign the value. We can assign the int val value to the elements of the array, and the result will be the same. So that's also while int val is less than 5, repeat action so yeah, this is also as an option. And why I started with this approach, because this is how it usually happens. We start with but we use booleans. Yeah. We use booleans, and we use booleans. So maybe, in this case it's maybe more quite clear, because it's so direct that we just simply have this statement that while this is less, then we do something. But maybe in more general approach, while will be used in a more flexible way, and this flexible way is associated with the flags. Yeah, maybe the flags or just any other boolean value. It can be the method which returns your boolean value. So yeah, it is based on the statement true or false. Again, this is also true, returns true or false. Yeah? As you remember, when we comparison operation can return true or false. The same as here also. flag. Yeah, maybe this concept is maybe more associated with while cycle, because so we do some actions, and so yeah, again we do some actions, and once the event happened, so in this case the event is that int value reached value 5, then in this case the flag is changed, the condition is changed to the opposite, and we will not go inside this loop again. But interesting, in this case the equivalent approach would be this one. So this is, and yeah, the example with the alarm is maybe one of the most direct examples. So one, if we haven't if we don't wake up, the alarm will continue ringing. That's the same once before. If the action is not or is occurred, in this case the action is occurred that we don't wake up, so this is true, we don't wake up, and alarm is still ringing. That's the idea of while. Yeah, while some action is not happened, or so while some action is happening, then we go for the cycle. Yeah, and this is again the syntax of while. Yeah, we designed to repeat, but the amount of repeats are not known. Yeah, in this case, it's known. Yeah, that we know directly that it will be 5 times. But let's imagine that we have unknown case. Maybe again, as you remember, we'll still just comment out to not delete the next operations. Let's imagine that we have randomizer. So the randomizer. So let's imagine that we randomize one value. Let it be 0, for example. And then, for example, while random value, not random value is 5. Yeah, I will also require number of iterations. I'll start with 1. So then basically, yeah, what will I do? I will use while loop, and inside while loop I'll generate random value. Let it be from 1 to 5, for example, and I will repeat this randomization until I get number 5 or number 3. So if not random value equals 3, then I will randomize random value. I'll use math class random. And so I will multiply it by 5, and I'll add 1, so it should generate random value from 1 to 5. Yeah. And I will increment number of iterations. No, I will start with 0. Yeah, because I will increment, and the first operation will definitely be executed. So, and now let's check how many iterations needed to get value 3. Iterations. So I hope I created it correctly, and we won't go. Okay, something is wrong. We go to the endless loop. Okay, let's moments. Okay, hope this should be correct. Okay, let me. Okay, so it seems that we go to endless into endless hoops. Okay, so this purpose we can use the debugging. So now we have the issue, as you can see. We are in endless loop, so we need to check why do we go into endless loop. So I put breakpoint, and I want to go through I want to go through this loop. Let's switch. So yeah, now we start with random value 0, and then we step over. No, I don't want to switch to different. Okay, so now the value is 1. Remember my decision. I don't want to switch to a different screen. Oh, okay. Yeah, for some reasons I think that's the issue. And then times 5. Yeah. Okay, let's check it now. Let's go to debugging. And let's go through the code. Use variables. So here I can see the random value still returns 1 to me. Why? One moment, let me check what guys, remember last time. Okay, maybe let's say something. Yeah, maybe that's because of the brackets. Yeah, this is the brackets. 1 moment. As you remember last time we generated from 1 to 10. So okay, maybe let's check it now. Okay. Oh no, sorry, that's the wrong one. Sorry. Yeah, accidentally ran the wrong program. So okay, the incorrect program. Okay, so let's go insert. Okay, now random value is 4. 1 iteration. Random value is still 4. It's 5. It's 4. Okay. It's 1. Yeah, okay, maybe let's go through and okay, and now we finally reached number 3 after 12 iterations. Yeah. So in this case, if we run the program again, then we can see that we need 8 iterations. Next time we'll need 11 iterations. So in this case, as you can see, we don't know the exact numbers of iterations we need to reach this number 3. Yeah. So that's as an example, as the way to explain why while loops. So is this example clear for you? Any comment if something is unclear? So while random value is not free, we go inside. Yeah, again, the idea is that in this case we won't know the actual number of the iterations we will need to go to this loop cycle inside. And since we have randomizer will generate the random value from 1 to 5. Yeah, and until it is not free, so we will attempt to get this number free, and after this number free is finally generated as random value, we'll finally stop our iteration, stop our cycle, and we'll print out how many cycles do we need to get this yes, Natalie, you're clear. But not value 3 is the same as not equals 3. Yeah, that's the same. Maybe I will comment it out, and I can also yeah. So this is equivalent. This is equivalent approach. Not run. Yeah, you can select the best option as you want. And again, the idea is that the main point here is that we don't know how many iterations do we need to finish this cycle. And that's why I'm showing this example. Because we don't, before we run the program, we don't know how many iterations there will be here. Okay, so I hope it's more clear now. Again, we still increase number of iterations, but that's to display at the end. But here we generate random number, and before random number is free, we continue to generate random numbers. And one more point is the entry value. That's right here. I'm sorry, this one. Entry value. This is also used practically not always, but so often. Yeah, we often use this entry value. Like in this case, and we start with the value which will actually satisfy this condition. So just firstly to enter the cycle, we can start with the value which will satisfy this condition, and then we can start the cycle. And maybe in this case, maybe it's even more efficient to use while statement, but this we'll see this type of hope a little bit later. But for while, again, simply condition, and while condition is true, we go inside. So yeah, that's the question: how many times the loop will be repeated? So if we use the scanner, for example, and we type, so we read the answer from the scanner, and we check if the answer is yes. So we check if user typed yes or something else. So if user typed yes, then this action, this loop will be repeated. Otherwise, we go after this loop, go next to the next steps of the program. So the question for you: how many times the loop will repeat this one? So this is the loop. How many times the loop will be repeated? The question from you, or for you. Do you know? I guess. Yeah, the answer is we don't know, because in this case answer value, it is entered by user, so we don't know how many times the user will enter value yes. So maybe we can quickly check this example in Eclipse as well. And I'll just comment out this code, so just to not create new classes. I can simply put the code here. Oh, no, that's not correct. Yeah, it's a mistake on Java utility class. This is correct scanner class. Okay, let's quickly sorry, I have missed something. Okay, yeah, sorry, that was this one. Okay, yeah. And a moment. Since that was from PowerPoint, this clicked the wrong quotation marks. Okay, so now it should be fine, and yeah, we also need to close this segment. Alright, finally I managed to copy it. Okay, so we run the program. Then if I type yes, we want to repeat, yes, they want to repeat, yes, and so on. If I type no, then the program will be terminated. So in this case, I managed to go inside this loop as many times as I want. So yeah, as we can see, while answer is yes. So while user types yes as the answer, then the loop will be repeated. Otherwise, if the answer is not yes, then the program will be terminated. So that's the case. Yeah, it's unknown because it depends on user wishes. Yeah, the question is how many times this loop will be repeated. So I hope you do know now how many times. So if we start with while true, then we can have some logic inside this loop. How many times this loop will be repeated while true? Can you guess? Any guesses? Any options? Any variants? Still? Yeah, but you know that this is the value, true. So if we type, if we type while true, any logic inside. So how many times this loop will be executed? Yes, that's correct. That's infinity. Because, and the idea of uh, while loop is that it will be executed until the condition inside the brackets is true. Since this is the constant value true, this will always be true. It means that this will always go to this statement inside. Yeah, we can simply run the program. Yeah, maybe I have to wait me print something. Yeah, just to show that we'll have endless loop. I type something which is not yes, and then I just skip this loop and go to this endless loop. So, yeah, this will result in endless loop. Endless loop. That's but yeah, basically again the case is that the value inside this the cycle may be changed, and once it is changed to false, then the loop will be terminated. Yeah. So yeah, this if repeat condition is always true, then while loop will be endless. So that's the idea. So yeah, please remember, while loop can do the same action as for, but for can do the same action as while. Yeah, for loop, this for loop we usually have the variable, and the idea is that we repeat the action fixed number of times. In this case, the number of times is length minus 1, from 0 to length minus 1, and I is incremented. I is incremented. So yeah, this is how it is. This is how it is. But for while, again, while condition can have any boolean value, and it's not mandatory to yeah, so here we can have any action, but in for cycle just a fixed number of actions, but in while until while condition is false. Then, as I already mentioned today, we when we use this approach, this one, when we started with the initial condition, I just mentioned that in this case we need to have entry condition. Let me copy paste this logic again. So in this case we have entry condition, because for me the idea is to repeat all these to repeat this iteration at least one time. Yeah, I need to have entry point. But in this case I do it in such maybe not crazy way, but not so fancy way. Yeah. I start with 0, which is maybe not the best option. So to skip this approach, by using the entry point, I can do it in opposite way. Not the opposite way, in different way. I can start with do. Then I have do, and I have while statement. What does it mean? In this case, let me paste this logic here and finish this logic here. So in this case, everything is correct. What does this approach mean? We start with do, so it means that it acts in a very similar way as while acts, but the idea is that we have the first iteration. Yeah. The first iteration will always be executed. In while, the first iteration in theory can be skipped because random value by default can be free, for example. Yeah. If it's free, then while will never be executed. But for do, it doesn't matter what's the value of random value. We will always start with these actions. Yeah, and in this case, for example, we don't need to initialize this random value. It actually will work the same way, but the only difference is oh yeah, I have not printed, sorry. Let me print this number of iterations. So you have this code and under, so do also you can check it, but yeah. So I ran the program. I ran it 12 times, and 12 iterations are needed to get value free. Now free iterations. So the case is, and the idea is that this action under do will be repeated until random value is not free. So again, here we start with do. We do all the actions inside. Then we check this while condition. If while condition is true, then we go and do this do section again. If it is false, then we go deeper. Let's have this explanation in the presentation. We also have this. So the first step in while loop is to verify the condition, as you remember. Then do the action. But sometimes it is necessary to do at least one time. At least one time all actions, and after that verify if you need to repeat these actions. So this is, as an example, we'll just have that if we don't use do, then we need to have entry point. Yeah, right here. But if we use do, this will definitely execute this operation at least once. Alright, so that's the short explanation. And the syntax is do, then we have this block section, and after a while we cannot have block section because it actually is assigned to this do block. So it is responsible to this do block. So yeah, and the same. Yeah, so this is the same example. Here it is unknown. It's dependent on user wishes. If user answer will be known the first time, the while loop will not start. Yeah. So in this case, we have this entry condition here. Then if the value is false, if you not false but not yes, any other value but yes, then we will not go inside this loop. So that's the case. But if we, like in this case, if we initialize the answer with any answer, then we inside the loop we read this answer from the user input, and then only after that we check this while condition, and we can copy this and just rewrite it in a different way. Again, I will comment out the code. Excuse me. So yeah, and in this case, again, as you can see, if answer here will be false, so not false, not yes, then we will not go inside the cycle. But if I declare string here, I will declare it as just an empty string. And so I start with do, with all the actions I will using do, repeat action, and yeah, I read we cannot use any other actions after a while. We cannot have any actions because all the actions are under do. So yeah, we start. I will just write the comment. Will be executed at least once. The same as here. Same as below. Yeah, so it means that we start with the cycle. So if while we can, in theory, it depends on the condition we have under while. Then for do, the first step will always be executed. Yeah. But in this case, yeah, the logic will remain the same, but the text will start with hello. Do you want to repeat? The first, this will be the first what we see. If we type something else, the program will be terminated. Alright. So yeah, this is the syntax. We can also print the arrays, but using do, while we start again with first element and then continue with all the other elements on the in the loop. All right, so this is the theory. This is a short theory about the loops. Yeah, if you have any questions for now, please ask. If not, then next lesson again. If you have any questions, you can prepare the questions until next lesson as well. If you want, and then we can start next session with the questions about Java loops. And after that, we will have the practical assignment on Java loops. But again, in case you have any questions about Java loops, we can discuss them. Maybe it's better to discuss them next time, because then maybe we won't have so much time for the discussions. Maybe my advice would be for you to prepare the questions for the next time, for Friday, about the loops, and then we can start with the questions about Java loops. Alright, so again, that's the end of the theory for Java loops for today. For the next time, again, you can prepare the questions as I just said. So I'll meet you on Friday then. Thank you and goodbye.